The Subaru BRZ is an incredibly fun drive. Low profile rear wheel drive powered by a 2.4 liter boxer style engine. And in this video, I'm going to unpack the BRZ and show you everything you need to know about what this car has to offer. This is the Murasaki Edition of the BRZ, which means that it's got a few unique elements. You've got the Galaxy Purple Pearl paint, which looks beautiful. It's purple for sure, but it's got some elements of blue under certain lights and black under other lights. It's a really great paint choice. On top of that, there are unique wheels available, and you're also going to find unique calipers too. One other thing that sets the Murasaki Edition apart from the regular TS is that it also has a short throw shifter. There's a little bit of a difference that you can feel as you shift there, and you can always do an aftermarket short shifter. We're only looking at rear wheel drive inside of the BRZ, which I don't think is a bad thing. This is a little summer car. And because it's such a small car, low profile, like the handling here, it's such a fun little car. This is an absolute blast. And we'll do a 180 here. Yeah, up to speed there. Beautiful. I had no complaints. It's a fun little car. The handling there was good. Responsiveness is solid. No real complaints. That's great. If you're looking for something that you could use year-round, I'd actually recommend looking at the WRX. It's got a similar powertrain, just a turbocharged engine, but it's symmetrical all-wheel drive. And the handling you get into the WRX is incredible. Not saying this isn't good, it's just a step above. The front-end styling of the BRZ is excellent. You're going to find LED headlamps inside of the ride. And one really neat thing about the lamps is that as you get into the higher trims, there are also lamps that have cornering capabilities. You'll notice it later on at night, so as you're taking turns left, right, the lamps are actually going to follow the road. So it makes it easier to see across bends as you turn. It's a great feature set. And as I mentioned, the styling is fantastic. I love what they've done with the front bumper, and then the basic design elements in the grille are solid. There's only a single engine choice available inside of the BRZ. It's a 2.4 liter non-turbocharged boxer style 4-cylinder. Pushes out 228 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. So while it's not the most powerful car out there, it's still a boatload of fun at the same time. Get back up to highway speed here in 3, 2, and... Beautiful. So is it as powerful as the WRX? No, not at all. But at the same time, the 2.4 liter boxer engine, this car can absolutely fly. And from a performance perspective, since this is technically a TS, you do have STI tuned suspension and then a V-style strut tower brace in there too. But you can see everything under the hood, which I love that they've done this for the design of it. If you're working on things yourself, you can easily change your oil, top up your wiper fluid there too. And then the warranty inside of the Subaru lineup is pretty standard. So your basic is going to be 3 years, powertrain is 5 years, and then you can always extend the warranty at time of purchase if you really wanted to. I was doing a little bit of digging, seeing what the reliability has been like on the Subaru BRZ as well. There aren't really many owner complaints. I went back to the 2022 models in 22, 23, 24, 25s. NHTSA, there are next to no complaints. And same thing on forums. You get the odd one, but as long as you take care of your car, regular maintenance, regularly scheduled oil changes, these things will treat you well. I said they're a blast to drive. Inside of the BRZ, you're going to find manual folding, side view mirrors, no turn signals built in, but they are heated. And then there's also a little blind spot monitoring system. So if anybody enters the blind spot on either side, it'll highlight to let you know. There's some intelligent access, so you can tap the little lines along the side there to lock the door, slide in order to unlock. But before we get inside, you've got nice little suede material along the door with your side view mirror controls and then your window controls there too. A little bit of storage. And then there are 2 different speaker choices you're going to find inside of the BRZ. So it's either a 6 or an 8-speaker audio system. But if we look at the space inside of this ride, so I've got the driver's seat as far down as it's going to go. And up overhead, sitting fully upright, I've got 3.5-ish inches of headspace. So I'd say if you're like 6'3", 6'4", you should be okay. Any taller, it'd be a little tight. And the reason why is because, hello, if we look in the back there, next to no space. Well, I'll really show off that in just a second here. But the seats are nice and comfy. The material here is pretty neat. I was in the WRX last week, and the TS has this nice blue insert, which I love. And the Recaros, these aren't Recaros, but they're still pretty nice at the same time. Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Subaru BRZ. In this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know. So, first thing I'm going to point out is that the steering wheel inside the ride is going to be manual telescoping. So center of the column there's a release in order to go in, out, up and down, so full telescoping. Once you find that perfect position, click it in order to lock it back into place. And there are so many different buttons and stalks, but there's a little rocker switch along the side here, so you can go up or down in order to increase, decrease the brightness of the cluster screen and the infotainment system. And then you could also open up the trunk from there. And you've got so many different buttons and stalks. So, starting off with the one top left, this is going to be your light control, then obviously for your blinkers. With your lights, so your auto mode that I'm in right now, you can go down if you wanted to turn your lights off, but in the auto mode, later on at night, if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, turns them off before turning them right back on again. But if you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out, go to your upper headlamp mode there, push away to turn them on, pull towards you to turn them off. But auto mode is the way to go for sure. Stalk along the right-hand side there is for your wipers. One up is just going to be a quick wipe. If you go one down, that puts you into the intermittent level. So you could then use the little rocker in the middle here to say how fast or slow rain's hitting the windshield. And then you've got your faster modes, and then just pull in towards you to get that wiper fluid going. There's your cruise control switch, which I'll touch on in a second. But along the left-hand side here, you've got a few other options. You can change between all of your available audio sources by tapping here. You can either answer or hang up on a phone call. You could also adjust your volume up and down this way. You can use the switch along the outside here in order to adjust your volume, push in the middle in order to be able to mute. And then if you have presets set up, you can also change between your presets here by going left versus right. Push and hold there in order to seek out. The buttons along this side, so the bottom one here is a voice command prompt.
Please
so you'll be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, you've got options of calling people, music and things like that. So what I'd actually recommend when you first get your BRZ, go through this setting because there are so many different things that you can do using your voice. If you had a phone hooked up to the screen, so Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, etc., you can do a longer push and hold of this button in order to activate either your Siri or your Google Assistant there too. From there, you've got your basic back button and then this trackpad, and that's going to be to move around the cluster screen there and then back if you're diving into deeper pages. You can essentially go back a level from there. And then you've also got your gap adjustment button, and this is for cruise control. So your cruise is all controlled using this little guy here. So you can toggle the cruise control system on by pushing the button along the outside. And you can see there, it's now toggled on. What you're going to do from there is just push down in order to set your speed. Increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. Push and hold up or push and hold down to increase, decrease at larger increments. Hit the brake to cancel your speed. Pull towards you to temporarily pause or cancel your speed, and then just push up in order to resume your previously set speed. Now, there are two different types of cruise, and that doesn't matter whether you're in the manual or the automatic transmission. You have both types of cruise control. Inside of the manual transmission, cruise control won't work, the adaptive cruise anyways, if you're in first gear. So that's just something to consider. But it's really simple using the system here. So as I mentioned, so you toggle it on there, up and down. And then for the cruise control systems, with their two different types. So it's either adaptive or there's traditional cruise control. Traditional is your old school. So you set it at 80, the car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. So you just have to be paying attention. Versus the adaptive, which is what it defaults to when you first turn the system on. You set it at 80. If the car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your previously set speed. Inside of the manual transmission, you obviously just have to be paying more attention as you slow down and then just shift gears as necessary. But the system stays on as you shift gears. It's amazing. If you take your little gap adjustment button here, so if you push and hold it, you've got your little click. You can see that the icon has changed out. So that is going to be, push and hold there again, your old school cruise control. So that's how you toggle it on. So you have to have cruise control, so your cruise control system set first. Push and hold here to change between normal versus adaptive. So adaptive cruise is my way to go for sure, but if you don't want it to slow down for you automatically, then all you're gonna do, just change out cruise there. Once you toggle it off, back on again, it defaults to the adaptive cruise. But that's where this gap adjustment comes into play. There are 4 unique levels there. So it's a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi for how close or far you are away from the leading vehicle. I'm personally okay level 1 most of the time. You might wanna be on 2, 3, or 4, just depending on your own personal comfort level. And then inside of the cluster screen, you've got your odometer along the very bottom, but you've also got your trip reset counter along the outside there. So if you were to tap it, that's going to bring you between your trip A versus your trip B counter, and then you can reset it just by pushing and holding. So that's going to recenter you back out to 0. So if you needed to keep track of your mileage, that's how you're going to be able to do it. On this main screen here, you can see your current fuel economy levels along with your fuel gauge done 2 different ways. So you've got your kilometers miles till empty, or you've got your gauge done that way, along with your outside temperature. Your tachometer is in the very middle with a fully digital speed, whether or not your parking brake is engaged there, yay or nay. If you go into your sport mode, you've got a slightly different look. And then if you push and hold the track button there, that gives you a better look. Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that look in comparison. But you've got a little bit of flexibility here. Then you're going to use the pad along the right-hand side of the steering wheel here. So you've got a few ways you can go up and down. There's your back button there too. So as we go up and down there, you can see you've got your different levels there. Back down to your total economy, left and right. You've got your G-meter gauge. Torque gauge there too. Lap timers. So if you're taking this bad boy onto a track, you can actually keep track of things as you go. If you had devices connected, that would also be showing up there. And then you've also got your basic cruise control screen. Bunch of different safety systems that are available. So your lane departure warning, you can toggle that one off. See your blind spot system, rear cross traffic alert. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side, with that one, it's going to show along your side view mirrors, and then rear cross traffic alert when you're backing up. If somebody's coming perpendicular from the left or the right side, you can toggle that one off. So safety settings are good unless you're tracking it, in which case disable absolutely everything. Your EyeSight system's available there too. So you've got some basic sounds, yay, nay, acceleration level when you're using your cruise control system. That's specifically the adaptive cruise control. So how fast do you want it to speed up? Do you want it to speed up slower? Do you want it to speed up a little bit faster? So you've got that available as an option. I'm okay on the standard level, but matter of preference there. And then tapping the back button to go back a level. And then you've got your drive lane, so you're driving along the left or the right-hand side. You can change out your measurement units this way. So do you want to be in either miles, kilometers, etc.? And you can see as everything, as we adjust out, it adjusts everything. So you've got your main speed along the middle, odometer along the very bottom there too. I like that it's such a seamless transition, but you can also do that through the infotainment system. Back a level, you've got warning volumes. So if you get warning chimes, etc., what level are those volumes going to be at? And basic screen settings. So do you want that startup screen when you first turn the vehicle on? Your rev indicator is a big one here too. So do you want to get an indicator for your rev? Yeah, you can see there. And then at what level do you want to get that shift indicator? So you can see it's kind of denoted right there at the 2000 RPM mark. So as we start to go up, you can see it. So at this point then, you hit the RPM at 3000. It's then going to chime at you, letting you know that you should shift. If you're brand new to driving a manual transmission, it could be useful for the first few days, but honestly, it gets kind of annoying. You can get a buzzer, the indicator, yay, nay. I'm a fan of nay. General rule of thumb in the manual transmission, keep yourself around 2,000, 2,500 RPM if you're just cruising. And then obviously if you're wanting to gun it a little bit, try not to redline for too long. And that's the same thing if you're in the automatic transmission too. If you're using your paddles, try not to redline for too long to avoid engine damage. Then there's some basic car settings, keyless entry,
Let's see, when you go to use the key fob, do you get signals? Do you get flashes? Driver's door, when you go to unlock, is it all doors or just the driver's door that becomes unlocked? Let's see, there's options for your defogger. So you get to a lot of these settings inside of the infotainment system too. Your interior light, when you go to lock the vehicle, do the lights stay on for up to 30 seconds? Your auto light sensors are there too. Nothing exciting. Welcome lighting. When you go to approach the vehicle, do the lamps stay on for up to 90 seconds? So you go to unlock on the fob and the lights can stay on for up to 30 seconds or they just don't come on. So that one's a pretty useful one, 30 seconds on, and same thing for leaving. So when you go to leave the vehicle, you go to lock, do the lights just turn off or do they stay on for up to 90 seconds as well? There's your one-touch lane change. So if you just do a light tap down, that's going to be 3. But if we turn that off for a second, so it's just a single. So then you'd have to push down in order to get it going. But I'm personally a fan of keeping that one on. And then you get 3 flashes as you go. This is the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Subaru BRZ and a few other Subaru cars. Let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. You've got your volume rocker here. You can push in the middle in order to mute your audio. You can push and hold it for a few seconds in order to be able to turn the screen off. And then just push and hold again in order to turn it back on. Tuning rockers along the outside. You can push and hold there in order to be able to get to some audio settings. So if you wanted to adjust out your equalizer, balance, fade, etc. There are some hot button presses to get to your home, phone, apps, change between song stations, etc. or hop into your radio. It's pretty simple. On the screen here, top left side, you've got your cruise control acceleration with 3 unique levels. So that's how fast the cruise control system is going to speed up again. And that's specifically with adaptive cruise control. There's steering responsive headlights available as an option. So you notice them later on at night, as you go to corner, left, right, etc. You're going to notice that the headlamps actually follow the road. So it's good from an illumination perspective. There's some advanced driving assistance settings, so pre-collision braking. If there's potentially going to be a collision, the vehicle can actively brake for you. You can toggle that one off. Lane departure warning, so if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, you get a message inside of the cluster screen. And then there's also your blind spot system or rear cross traffic alert. The blind spot system, if somebody enters the blind spot on either side, that's going to highlight on the driver's side, opposite on the passenger side, and then rear cross traffic alert. If you're backing up and there's somebody coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, it's going to let you know of a potential collision. And then you've got some others. So this one here, I guess the big one would be the measurement units. So do you want to be in either kilometers or miles? It's one of the benefits of it being a fully digital cluster screen is that when you adjust it, it adjusts everything out. Then there are a bunch of other settings available, which we'll dive into a little bit later. The outside temperature is there. You can adjust your clock by tapping in here too. And then you've got all of your icons. You can actually readjust these icons too. So if you push and hold, that makes it loose. And then you could drag the icons around in order to adjust these out for a perfect position for you. And then home in order to lock it back into place. Radio is available here, and you can see you've got FM, AM, SiriusXM. Then there are other sources available, which I'll touch on in a second here, but AM, FM, they work the same. So you've got all of your presets along the very bottom, and you can see there, all of your presets are a mix of AM, FM, or SiriusXM. You can tune the stations this way. You can hit the voice command prompt.
Please say a command.
102.1 FM.
Okay, tuning to 102.1 FM.
So you can change stations that way if you'd like to. And then you can also either save a station in by pushing and holding or overwriting by pushing and holding there instead. You can tap this to get to all of your available sound settings. And then you can scan. So if you wanted to scan to different stations, you can replay or look at your station list. So if you're new to an area and you're not sure what stations are available, you can also update as you move to different areas, etc. And then you can toggle HD radio on or off. So you can see there, turn it off, and we've got the RDS info. Some stations broadcast digitally, others don't. Digital stations may not have that RDS info. AM is going to be the exact same. SiriusXM gives you a few additional options. So you can actually replay because it's live radio essentially. You could show or hide the information there, look at some additional settings, which we've already seen, and then direct tune. So if you know what SiriusXM station you want to listen to, you can go that way. Media, it would be the next one here. And media, you've got Bluetooth. So if your phone was connected over Bluetooth, you'd have the flexibility of listening to audio that way. You could also hook up over USB too. There are some USB ports in the armrest. So if you have a USB stick with some MP3s or other audio files, you can go iPod or an older iPhone. There's a 3.5mm aux jack in there too. So if you want to go, so I love that they've got this. It's pretty rare to actually find cars that support 3.5, so that's pretty neat there. Adding in a phone inside of the ride is pretty simple. And you can see right now there aren't any phones connected. So all we're going to do is tap, add a device. And then on your phone, we're just waiting for Subaru BRZ to pop up. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. Look at that. Do you want to transfer your contacts? No. So we are done here. So you're hooked up over Bluetooth now, so you'd be able to make phone calls and also stream audio this way if you wanted to. So you can easily exit out of that. But the vehicle also does support Apple CarPlay. There are 2 different USB ports in the armrest. You can use either one, and then you're just going to plug yourself in. And let's go ahead and enable CarPlay. Do you want to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked? Yes, because otherwise it just wouldn't work. And you're fully connected. So you can tap here and then swipe across in order to get to different screens here. And then you've got your main screen here. You've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze support inside of the ride. But let's say if you can't even get to this screen because CarPlay is just not working for you, check down in the description of this video for some common CarPlay fixes that you can try. But along the outside of the screen here, you've got your current time and then your connection level. That's whatever map was open last, whatever audio application was last open, miscellaneous app, and then you can also tap here to get to your icon view or back to the home screen. You've got support for Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze, which is great. YouTube Music is there, and it's strictly YouTube Music, so you wouldn't have YouTube video playback support, unfortunately. Live One's a radio app. Hoopla is a library app. You can listen to your podcast there instead if you wanted to. If you were to hop back home, you can easily hop back into CarPlay this way, and then you can also, so you can tap settings there or here in order to be able to adjust things out. So if you wanted to change up your wallpaper, you'd have the flexibility to do it. So if there's a color scheme that speaks more to you, you can easily change that out if you'd like to. And then you can also adjust out the icon layout here. So if you're not a fan, on your phone, you're just going to go into your settings, general, CarPlay, just find your vehicle. You can forget it or customize. So we just want to tap customize here. So if you want your podcast along the top, and if you want Waze up there, you can just do a drag and drop. Anything with a minus next to it, you can actually remove it from the screen here. So it fully removes. It saves them along the bottom. So if you wanted to add them back in, you could. But if you've played around with the layout too much and you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of your phone, there's a reset option. So just tap reset, reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the factory default icon layout. Pretty simple. When you're connected to CarPlay, you could also take the voice command prompt and do a long push and hold in order to be able to activate your Siri assistant. Back home from there, you can hop back into CarPlay, or if you go to your settings, phone, you've got manage devices, which we can't do because I'm currently connected. So unplugging there now gives us the option of managing devices, and I've got the iPhone 14 Pro, which I've connected to, and you can easily disconnect from there, delete, or add in additional devices. But that's how you set up Apple CarPlay and Apple devices inside of the BRZ. Setting up Android devices inside of the BRZ is a pretty straightforward process. If you weren't on this phone screen, if you were back home, you could just tap phone there, but I'm currently connected to the iPhone right now. So you can manage devices there, or under settings, phone, manage devices, and then add. And then on your Android device, we've got Subaru BRZ that popped up there. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. There we go. Allow access to messages and contacts. This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. If it was yours, you could obviously say yes there. And you can stop here. So you're connected right now over Bluetooth, so you'd be able to make phone calls and stream audio. But there is also support for Android Auto. That's also a wired connection. So you're going to use one of the 2 available ports inside of the armrest. And then opposite side of the cable, just plugging ourselves in. And let's go ahead and enable. Look at that. So you've got your main screen there. You can tap here to get to an icon view, back to this screen instead. You've got this basic button here. You could also activate your assistant that way. There's Google Maps available with some other icons available along the bottom. And then you've also got your current time, connection, and battery level there too. You can go full screen Google Maps just by tapping there. You can hide this. There's full pinch to zoom capabilities on the Android side, which is great. Now I do have Waze installed on this device here, but if you've got Waze installed on your Android and it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on some common fixes that you can try in order to get that working again. Then you've also got the flexibility of being able to customize the icon layout here. In order to do it, on your Android, you're just going to search for Android Auto. You're going to look for your Android Auto settings, which will pull you up to this screen. All you want to do is tap Customize Launcher, and you've got all of these options. You can just do a drag and drop if you wanted to be able to readjust these things. Along the outside there. Come on, fella. There we go. So just drag and drop in order to be able to adjust these out. Anything with a check mark next to it, you can either add it in or remove it from the screen. And in order for these changes to come into effect that you've made, just disconnect from Android Auto, reconnect to Android Auto, and as we connect through, the changes that we've made here have now come into effect. So it's that simple to be able to do it. You can push and hold the voice command prompt along the steering wheel if you wanted to be able to activate your Siri Assistant there too. And then hopping back to your basic home screen there, or back here, you can launch back into Android Auto or hop into your settings. You can't manage devices because you're currently connected. So if you were to unplug, you'd then have the flexibility of being able to manage devices, and you've got both phones that have been connected. So you can easily swap between phones this way if you want to. You can also easily delete devices. So just select the device you want to delete and delete. Delete and OK. And you're set to go. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the BRZ. You can look at your phone book recent calls if your phone is still connected, if messages were there, and you can also change out your device name. So if you don't want it to be Subaru BRZ, you want it to be Steve's Ride, etc., you could easily change it out that way. That's when you're connecting Bluetooth. And then you've got some Apple CarPlay, Android Auto options, specifically looking at all of your device connections. And then I mentioned there are a boatload of different settings we'll dive into last because there's a lot of them. You've got all of your apps that are available here too, so you can hot button push to get into Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, your Subaru options, Subaru Starlink. There is an app available for Android and iPhone devices too with some limited functionality, but it is there. And then you've got your My Subaru, settings, maintenance. So if you're doing work yourself, you can easily reset all of these counters. You can add in additional shortcuts, and then you've got a series of other shortcuts. So if you tap Add Shortcut right here, you can add in different shortcuts. So if you wanted a shortcut to get to certain settings or to your radio, to a SiriusXM station, you can do that. So that you can then have an icon here, and then you'd be able to adjust your icons out. So if you wanted to have a SiriusXM specific station as a home screen icon or a shortcut, you've got that flexibility. Then I mentioned a boatload of different settings that are available. So starting off here, you've got your clock, which you can adjust out your clock here if you want to, or you can tap your clock along the top there, but adjusting it out, you can change out your time setting. So auto versus manual. So if you wanted to manually set your time, you could. And then do you prefer to be in the 12 versus 24 hour mode? There are driver profiles available here too. So if there are multiple people driving the vehicle, I'd actually recommend setting up additional profiles. And the reason why is because you can have each phone hooked up for each individual profile if there are multiple people, save all of your presets in and things like that. You can adjust some things out with your display, so you could toggle the display off if you want to. Push and hold here for a few seconds in order to turn it back on again. That's the same thing, you can push and hold here in order to be able to do that. In your display, you've got your brightness dial, and then you can also adjust out the brightness or contrast of the screen. Wi-Fi is available there too if you wanted to download updates. Reminder screens are there too for birthdays, anniversaries, or for maintenance. So if you've got maintenance upcoming, it can give you a reminder. Same thing with birthdays and anniversaries. I'll show you how to set those in a second. There's your meter screen available there too. So your startup screen is inside of the cluster. So when you start the vehicle up, you get a little welcome screen there. Do you want to get a gear shift indicator? So you'll notice that as you go to shift gears out, it'll be a tiny little arrow letting you know to shift up. You can adjust a few things out with your camera, so your rear camera delay. If you're in reverse and then you start to drive forward, so you put yourself into first, it's going to keep that rear camera on at low speeds for a few seconds. And then there's also your steering angles. So if we just go into reverse for a second here, you can see your guidelines there. And then as you rotate the wheel, also dynamic. So with that camera delay, like I said, it would just keep that rear camera on for a brief second. You can adjust out your language. So do you want to be in either English, French, or Spanish? Home screen shortcuts. Do you want those shortcuts available on the screen there? Yay or nay? You've got your birthday and anniversary list, which is kind of cool. So you can add in different birthdays and anniversaries. So if you tend not to remember them, I don't know why you wouldn't just use your phone, but you can do it this way too. You can check to see if there are updates that are available. You can also look at auto-connecting your Starlink system, and that's the one with your Subaru app. There's your factory data reset, which is going to get rid of everything. There is a way to do a soft screen reboot. I'll show you towards the end of the infotainment walkthrough. You can look at some basic system information for your software version. There are some sound settings that are available. So with your audio, you've got some customization options. I found something like this tends to work pretty well. But what I'd actually recommend is playing one of your favorite songs and then adjust the sliders out until it sounds perfect for you. You can adjust out the balance and fade. So do you want it driver focused, rear focused? You can drag it around there or recenter it again. Let's see, there's bass that's available. So adjusting your bass levels, your beat enhancers, speed control, volume. So as you're going faster or slower, the vehicle can automatically increase the audio for you. And then you can control your audio gain. And then you've got additional options for your beeps. So the little beep that we're getting here, you can toggle that off if you don't want to get a beep whatsoever, but you can also adjust out your beep sound, your ringtone volume, your call volumes, SMS, like all of these individual volumes. I love that Subaru's got this available. So you can really customize the volumes here and make it perfect for you. There are options for your phone, which we've already seen these. So you'll see a few of these things you can get to a few different ways. AM, FM, SiriusXM. So you've got your basics, your bookmarks, etc. SiriusXM gives you a few basic options. You can add in parental controls. So adding in a 4-digit lock so that certain things wouldn't be able to listen to. Traffic apps, etc. And then basics for your, basics, and then a bunch of things for your car. So auto vehicle shutdown. What this one means is that after 30 minutes, the car is actually going to turn itself off. If you disable that one, it'll just keep on going. And I think that is it. Yeah, there are so many things. And then, as I mentioned, if you're ever running into problems with the screen, so let's say Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto is not working, or it's giving you any sort of problem, you can do a full factory reset. But the downside of doing a full reset is that it's going to wipe everything from the infotainment system. So any profiles that you've set up, settings that you've done, etc. What you actually want to do is a soft screen reboot instead. In order to be able to do the soft screen reboot, all you're going to do, take the little volume button in the middle here, push and hold it, and just keep on hanging on. You're going to come to this screen, keep on holding, and then the screen's going to go off. Keep on holding from here. What we're doing is we're forcing a soft screen reboot. It's the exact same thing as if you were to try to do a reboot on your phone. So we're clearing the cache essentially. So a few seconds in, keep on hanging on. And then eventually you'll come up to the screen. And that's how you know that you've actually done the full soft screen reboot. So that should solve the majority of issues that you're facing with that soft reset. If that doesn't work, then you want to do the full data reset. If that doesn't work, the next step from there is going to be to take it into your Subaru dealership for them to have a look and see what's going on. Underneath the screen there, you've got your push start. There's dual zone, climate control available. You can sync it up. So if the passenger side is set to something different, you can control your fan speed. There's auto, turn it off with your basic defrosters. Adjust out your mode. So do you want it to go into your windshield, face, feet, etc. This is the Murasaki Edition, which is why you've got that unique nameplate. 6-speed manual transmission. You've also got the automatic version too. The automatic would have a manual mode, and then it would also have paddle shifters. But if you've never used paddles or manual mode inside of an automatic transmission, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on some things that you can try and like how do you use them, when you want to use them, and why. You've got your manual parking brake there. Down low, there's also the option of toggling your traction control off. There's an available sport mode, which inside of the highest trims gives you a slightly more unique look, so you can see there. And then there's also your track mode too. So you just take the track button and push and hold it for a few seconds, and that puts you into your track view, which, I mean, when you drive, that just looks beautiful. Or back to your basic view instead. And then you've also got a few cup holders back there with some different power points. So this is pretty cool because you've got 2 USB type A power points there. And then you've also got a traditional 3.5mm jack, which is just something that you typically don't see inside of most cars. And then
there's a glove box here. It's non-lockable. Now here's the thing, in the glove box, so you can see it right at the very back there. I've got a 12 volt plugged in. That's the only spot you're gonna find a 12 volt inside of this ride. It is in the most awkward space, but it's back there. So just for an aftermarket dash cam, but I mean, you could wire it in directly if you wanted to. But the overall style here inside of the car is great. There's a manual dimming rear view mirror, your basic controls there, so your SOS mode, light controls, do you want to have your lights off, open with the door, etc. It's nice. From there, you've got a little ticket receipt holder along the top. There's a little vanity mirror that has a light built in too. And then, sadly, this little feller does not stretch out whatsoever. So you're definitely going to run into issues with visibility along the outside there. It's one thing I think that Subaru should change around. But I mean, outside of that, the interior of this car is excellent. Then, if we look, so there is a second row in the back. I am not going to even attempt to get inside because, I mean, look at that. There's no foot space available whatsoever. So it's one of those things. I mean, if you've got kids, it's nice because you've got all of your anchor points there with your tethers up high. So if you need a kid seat, you could have this as like a nice little fun family car for a couple of years until Junior starts getting a little bit too big. But yeah, like I said, there's no space in the back here whatsoever. But outside of that, this is a beautiful car. The rear end profile of the BRZ is excellent. You're going to find LED tail lamps inside of the BRZ, so walking up to the car at night, well, it's not as pretty as the front end, it's still pretty solid at the same time. And the startup sound is excellent. You're going to find dual tip exhaust inside of this ride, and not really much from a technology standpoint. You're not going to find parking sensors inside of any trim level. You're going to find a backup camera though. And then basic styling, you've got a little deck lid spoiler over top with a boatload of different aftermarket accessories available there too. Getting into the boot of the ride can be done a few different ways. There's a button just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You can use the key fob to do it. And then there's also a button just above the Subaru badge in the back that you can push in order to get inside. And there's not really much from a feature perspective. There's nothing along the left or the right-hand side. You've got a little storage tray there, so you could lift this little guy up, and you're going to find the jack stand off to the left-hand side. Then there's also the inflator kit. So the goop is there along with the air compressor. So if you ever puncture a tire, you can try to seal it yourself. You do also have access to roadside assistance, but if you need that extra peace of mind just in case, you can pull out this whole tray, and you'd be able to easily fit a mini donut in the back. So that is available there as an option. Folding down the second row seats can be done two different ways inside of the BRZ. The hard way to do it is through the front, so you kind of reach back to the buttons along the top of the seat there. But if you kind of look down, you can actually reach some straps along both the left and the right-hand side. So you just have to pull those and then drop. And there is a boatload of cargo space available. The measurements that you're looking at here, the ones specifically behind the first row, they go from right where that trunk door would close to just in behind that little armrest between the first row seats. So if the driver's seat, passenger seat were backwards or forwards, you might gain or lose a little bit of extra space. There's not really much room for the second row anyways, but folding the seat down flat, you actually get a surprising amount of cargo space inside of this ride. Filling up fuel inside of the BRZ is done just along the passenger side. When the car door is locked, the fuel door is also locked. So you just have to unlock in order to get inside. It's a capped cover there as well, and it's got anti-siphon technology built in, but you could always go for a key style lock if you really wanted to. Now, when it comes down to fuel quality inside of the ride, minimum manufacturer's recommendation, so just along the door here, you can see it says, premium unleaded fuel only. When it comes down to the minimum octane rating, looking at the owner's manual, the minimum recommended and required are two different things. Recommended, at least a 93 octane. Required inside of this vehicle, though, is at least a 91. So you can't use the 85. If you're in an absolute pinch and there's no premium fuel at the station that you go to, a couple liters or a gallon of 87, but make sure that you top it up and don't push the car too much, because if you use something that's lower than, I can say like a 91, you push the car, it could lead to engine knocking. And that's just something that could end up damaging the engine long term. So do yourself a favor, minimum 91, 93 though if it's available, and you'll notice a huge difference in the performance of this ride. The fuel economy inside of the BRZ has also been pretty good, like surprisingly good. I get way better than expected economy on highway driving when I'm just cruising. And then city driving tends to be a little bit worse, but that's just because when the light turns green, I like to gun it and have a little bit of fun. But if you're more of like a granny driver, you'll get pretty decent economy in city streets, but highway is where this car really shines. So far, I do have to say that I've been enjoying the BRZ. With it being a little bit lower profile than the WRX, it just gives a very different drive in comparison. If you were to ask me, comparing the two of them, I would honestly probably choose the WRX over the BRZ. Only reason being, this is going to be rear-wheel drive versus the WRX would be all-wheel drive. So with the WRX being all-wheel drive, you'd be able to use it year-round versus this. You can really only use it spring, summer, fall if you live in Canada like me, or in northern states. But if you're looking for a fun little summer car, I mean, the 2.4 liter engine, it's actually pretty solid. And it's really easy to spin the back wheels out on this thing too. So if you wanted to kind of do like burnouts and spins and things like that, you absolutely could. And some under handling here. It handles well. It handles well. Getting up to speed there was great. Took that corner beautifully. Now, when you look at the road noise though inside of the BRZ, it is very noisy inside of this ride. So that's one thing. I mean, yeah, you could maybe try to drown out some of the road noise using the stereo system, but it's a noisy interior for sure. I found the Subaru, the WRX was the exact same. You know, both slightly noisy interiors, so I'd like to see some upgraded active noise cancellation inside of both of them. And that was everything you needed to know about the Subaru BRZ. You can find all of the build details for this one down in the description, with links off to Subaru Canada and US. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care.